Are you a leader, a business leader, business owner who's stuck in your consulting services? Maybe you're working too hard, not getting paid enough. We're going to talk about that today, how to triple your fees, and with Mandi Ellefson from Hands Off CEO. Mandi, say hi.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about becoming an indispensable growth partner, the offer problem most consultants have, the foundational piece being taught that she teaches to get high value services out there, finding your $1 million solution, unlocking the bold promise that you have, how our clients are actually doubling their prices 3 times in a row, delivering bigger offers, and the radical change that you need to do that, and why most scale strategies are not actually scale strategies, as well as why a $50,000 offer is actually probably a low ticket offer and how to shift. All of that on this Garlic Marketing Show. But first, this is brought to you by videocasestory.com. One of the best ways to increase your pricing is through better positioning. Video Case Stories can help you do that, as well as many more things. Go to videocasestory.com where we can help you collect, craft, and deliver those. All right, let's get started. So here we are. Mandi's got an awesome new book. It's Hands Off CEO, and triple your fees and profitably scale an exceptional consulting agency that grows with you. I'm super excited for it because I know it works. I've talked to her clients and we see it work over and over and over again. And she has a lot of happy clients. And so before we get started, if you want the book, you can go to handsoffceobook.com and we'll talk about some special offers that she has for our audience. But Mandi, let's talk about the types of companies that you are helping right now and some of the success stories that you've had recently.
Sure. So who we work with are the companies that are in this transition place where they have had some success and they've gotten to a point where they've become a bit of a victim to their own success. And what they find is that as they're generating more growth, the CEO tends to be working more and more hours, and then the company cannot actually run without the CEO and definitely cannot grow without the CEO. So what that looks like is that a lot of compromises have to be made in order for the company to continue growing. And that compromise usually looks like the CEO giving up more and more hours of their personal life, or have to deal with the quality slipping as the company's growing. And that's the problem that we're solving. And we tend to be working with companies that have really complex services that they may be quite technical. It could be in the marketing space, in the growth space. It could be in more technical services too. I'll let you jump into. It looks like you've got something to say.
No. I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm like, yeah. I'm just taking notes here because this is a lot of good stuff.
Well, what happens is that there's just really no good scale models out for how to scale custom services. So this is why I've written this book, and I've had for a number of years, we've had people write the book. And, we've just had so many other things going on that it hasn't been a priority and up until now. And we have a different model that turns the old typical scaling model on its head when it comes specifically for these custom type of businesses that everyone else says can't be scaled.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I've run into these businesses all the time and I love them because it's the complexity is like transforming that complexity into something simple to market is one of the best things you can do with customer stories, with case stories. So, and I know that's part of your model, but before we even get into how you do that, you've grown some offers pretty exponentially with that. We're still hands off. Can you give me a few samples?
Sure. I'll give you some different examples. One of them is actually a client that we both have. We've shared client, and he's a great marketing consultant, has a whole team around him delivering. But the problem is that, on the Mark strategies, his name is Mark, his face is on the front of it, and he's out there speaking and getting work for that. So what happens is everybody wants Mark. So what's going on here is that he cannot continue scaling without more and more hours and more days on the road or in the air. And what that looks like is a company that just really can't grow. It just stops, right? So what we looked at is that, how do we be able to get Mark out of the day-to-day in the company? And well, the typical way of approaching this is just more systems. And it's just like, Here's the thing is that by the time people come to us, they've all heard the systems thing. They've all worked on all these systems. They've hired all these people, but the reality, it doesn't fix the problem. And the problem is that what they are actually scaling, what they're actually selling isn't scalable, but it's not scalable for different reasons than they think.
Gotcha.
So-
Sorry. My computer, I have no idea what's going on, but so they're it's interesting. Yeah. Because I mean, I believe in systems. So it's like, throw more systems at it. And why is that not right?
Well, here's the thing is that they're actually looking at the problem wrong. And the operations are actually when you're looking at the operations and operational issues and, you know, the amount of time that the CEO is working and the efficiency and all that, most people will look at that and try to solve that as an operational issue. But the problem is that 80 or more % of the actual problems are caused in the marketing and selling of the actual service. That's where the problems are started. So we have to, and I know that this is something you really like, because so many problems are actually marketing problems and positioning problems. The problem is that they're positioning this all wrong, and they're positioning it based on Mark's expertise. And he knows that, but how do you actually change that? Well, how you change that is it has to be about an outcome, and they're delivering amazing outcomes. But how do you be able to take these outcomes? How do you be able to simplify it in a way that it actually elevates it, not in a way that it actually diminishes it and makes it more like a commodity, which is what most models do when they're trying to scale services. They say you need to go down market. They say that you need to lower your prices or, you know, keep them the same. But the reality is that what keeps the CEO stuck in the day-to-day is actually, it's usually a pricing issue is one of the issues. And the reason why they have a pricing issue is because they actually have a promise issue. And the reason why they have a promise issue is because they are not actually clear enough about who they're actually doing the best work in the world for. And they haven't boldly declared that enough. And when you get really clear on who that one client is, who that one painful problem is, what that one painful problem is, and what that really clear outcome is, this is where you can go and have really massive increases. And for Mark, they were able to actually increase their prices 600%. This was during COVID. This is when when their banking clients were freaking out and they didn't want to invest anymore. They went and they raised their prices 600%. They're now charging 6 figures for their services. And their clients said yes when they said no before to the lower price point around between $10,000 and $30,000. And they were selling these individual little things before. And now it's the big HUNA, and they're delivering massive, massive results. And it's actually easier to scale.
That makes sense. I mean, it seems like it shouldn't make sense, but it does, because in the end, selling to a $30,000 package, instead charging $120,000 and putting a little more work into it, or $180,000, is a lot easier to scale.
Well, but in his case, it's actually, they weren't putting any more work into it. And actually it was less work, because because what would happen is that they'd sell a service. And, you know, here's the problem with these little introductory services is that, guess what? You got to sell the next one and the next one and the next one. And there's like a gap between each one where they say, well, you know, we need to go do this thing first. And then before you know it, you put the same amount of work in that you would put in for a much longer service. You've delivered half the results that you otherwise would have if you would have just had like the ongoing retainer with the client. And the client has paid dramatically less because they haven't gotten as much value. You have to be able to package it in a way where it's about the result that the client is going to get, where you're bringing them an expansive vision that they can't find anywhere else. And they're willing to pay significantly more.
And so, I mean, essentially what you're saying is you're coming down to an offer problem.
Exactly.
Right.
It's an offer problem. But if you're looking at operations from the problem of, we don't have the right team, we don't have the right systems, we don't have all the, like, we need more of these systems for what?
Yeah.
If you have services all over the place, how are you going to be able to systematize that? You can't. It's just too wildly all over the place. And how do you even know which team you need if you don't know which systems and processes you need? It's like, so it's all comes down to what is the actual foundation of what the business is going to scale based upon, which is the offer. And unless you get that right, nothing else is going to work as far as the rest of the company without the CEO. So what ends up happening is that unworkability, the CEO has to be there sticking their fingers in all the holes in the dam, because there's not the structural integrity in the company without them, because they haven't done this foundational piece, and no one knows to do this foundational piece. And the ones that kind of know that what they're teaching doesn't actually work for high ticket services that are really exceptional. It works for the lower end stuff, that the more the commoditized services, but not when you're actually delivering like impact that's like in the $1 million value plus.
And one thing this can be a completely separate discussion, but I've kind of been pushing away from people saying like, we don't use that word high ticket. I say high value, because I always think of like high ticket as like, this is when people are selling, it's a transactional thing. How do you feel about that? It's just, I think
that high value. I think that's a good distinction. I prefer that too.
Yeah, because we're seeing all these people sell high tickets, offers, or how to do high ticket offers. I'm like, but that seems to me like I'm buying one thing and it's a transaction versus value and bringing value back and forth, which is what you're talking about here, is that you have to have a very valuable offer.
Well, it's about being a growth partner. It's about being indispensable to your client where they couldn't possibly want to work with anyone else.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Well, and because when you show up that way, when your website shows up that way, and we're currently doing a rebranding right now to better represent the work that we're actually doing. But when you show up that way, you magnetize the right types of clients to you. It doesn't mean that it's magic, like you still have to do work, but what happens is that when you're doing your marketing, you have an awareness problem rather than I'm trying to hard sell someone because what we have isn't that special.
Yes.
And this is where your case stories come in. And I love this is what you guys do, because what you're actually doing is you're sharing these emotional stories that have the proof that backs up these statements, that backs up like having this really bold promise that you can come in as this growth partner, but then actually being able to tell stories about other people who've experienced that. That's so powerful. That's the way to be able to market to these type of clients who have the cash to spend, and they really want someone who can do an exceptional job.
Yep. Oh yeah. And if it is about belief, that's why, but it's also, it's finding that value that you bring. How do you help people find the value and then amplify it?
Right. Well, the best way is to look at history. It's to look at what have you already done in the past, and what have you done in the past? What were the circumstances that were there that allowed you to be able to create those results? What did you need to have in place in order to do that? And then what clients did you work with that were like a disaster? And you can learn from those and understand, well, we have to have these things in place. So for us, we have to have clients that are delivering value they're delivering $1 million type of solutions. Like anything less than that, it just doesn't make sense. We can't deliver the kind of outcome that we want, because we want to be able to help our clients add multiple millions of dollars of growth and hundreds of thousands of dollars of extra profit. So like that's the minimum standard for us. So really so to answer your question is looking at what is your minimum standard. And by the way, that minimum standards goes up every year. So where that looks like for us is in our Scale to Freedom tribe, with where we're doing the majority of our work with our clients. They have to have $1 million companies already. They have to have teams already. And, now every now and then we'll do offer work with companies a little bit lower than that, $500,000 up, but that's only for a 90-day type of engagement to help them get to a point where they actually can. But we say no to a lot of companies. And we say no to a lot more companies that we say yes to. And this is what we find makes the biggest difference for our clients, is that when they get into that mindset, they're there to disqualify a potential client as opposed to begging them to work with them. And when they're positioned as such that these are the kind of results that we can create. Here's some case stories that we have of other clients who've experienced this. Let's look and see if this is something that we could do for you or not. Like, it's a much more powerful place to be in, and say, we can do this and we can do this and we can do this for you. Please hire us.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen so many people get trapped in that. Let's add more service. Let's add more service instead of adding more value, like you're talking about, to the right people. And you've created offers, you were saying up to $1 million.
Yes. About 25% of our clients right now our clients incoming now are selling $1 million type of offers now. And so what this looks like is they're coming in and at least half of them are now selling 6-figure offers. So what that looks like is that, so if our clients are selling services in the, let's say that they're selling $30,000 to $60,000 packages, right? Then what that's going to look like is that they're usually going to be selling 125 on up to maybe 250 the first round of that. We've had some clients who've gone through this irresistible offer intensive process and have doubled their prices 3 times. So, right. And that's the thing, is like, we're constantly going through this process ourselves too, and to be able to dial in. And this is the way to actually increase your prices with integrity. Nobody owes you anything. You don't deserve to make more money. That's not how it works. How it works is that you're actually there to deliver a bigger outcome for your clients. And they're there to support, you're there to support them with that outcome. I have a vacuum that's running in my background. I have to just stop it. Just 1 second.
All right.
So the way to actually increase your fees in a way that's ethical and in a way that actually has integrity is to be focusing on the actual results that the clients get, and being paid based on the kind of impact that you can make for a client, versus like this belief of like that I deserve more, or that, I have been in this industry for 20 years. Like, it's an entitlement perspective. No one owes you anything. You could be doing this for 20 years and be terrible at what you do, versus someone who could come into the industry, has been there for 2 years and has figured something out that can generate results much faster and can get paid more. It's the ultimate leveling field when you look at your work in this way, but it doesn't work for everyone. The ones who have mediocre services, they can price we're going to do 10% increase. Ooh, we might lose some clients over it. This is taking a radically different approach to actually being that growth partner. And then when you do that, then your clients are actually excited about it, because they're seeing all these different things that you're bringing to the table, and that you're actually standing by that work with them.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift. And, you mentioned agencies, consulting agencies, tech. Is there a consulting industry that this doesn't work for?
It doesn't work for those in the industry that are just like a production house that's just turning the crank, and that they're not really in it to necessarily have a transformation. These type of companies are going to be weeded out with technology and outsourcing. They already are. But the companies that are committed to, we just want to design really nice websites, and they're not worried, they're not really concerned about how it's going to actually impact the growth of the company. Or I'm sure you see this in your industry, Ian, where there are tons of video production companies out there that are just producing videos without a thought to how it's actually impacting the growth of the company. I mean, you see that all over, I'm sure.
All over. Well, and yeah. And, I can get into it, but it's, they're thinking about either volume of output or, the wrong metrics. And
Yes.
They're like, they're thinking of their own, like the filmmakers are thinking of the filmmaking metrics, like color and sound and making a beautiful film, which is nice, but those things just don't impact. And it's so I think that's a great thing, because I think a lot of these technicians are looking at the stuff that might technically improve them without actually adding impact.
This is something that I saw when I was a graphic designer too. And that was my first business, graphic design, web design, branding. And I really wanted to approach it from the business angle. And I had less business experience. I had the business experience from hands-on being a manager at a business. I had experience from, making a lot of money for that business and just kind of having that savvy from growing up in more of an entrepreneurial family and, just starting businesses from the time I was really little. But I saw it very different than the people who had been trained classically as graphic designers who got very precious about their designs. And they were not thinking about it the way that the client was thinking about it. And I learned very quickly that I had an ability to talk to clients that was very different than the way that they talk to clients. And it gave me a real leg up very early in my journey in that business. And it's what ultimately led me to Hands Off CEO, where I really craved to make an even bigger impact.
That's great. I mean, it's a great story, and it's a good story for people to realize is that often they're just way too close to their business, and that's why they need someone like you and a book like this. And I'm sure the book is amazing. I think everyone should read it, but also like having someone on the outside of your business, if in each of these capacities, is invaluable, because I've talked to so many people, and I'm too close to my business. It's not just me. I mean, I talk to other people about my marketing and other things because we're all just too close to our business.
Well,
and I think it's so important.
It's so true. And, there's a reason why 80% of our clients are actually marketing agencies. And these are marketing experts, some of the best marketing experts in the world. They're good. They're delivering like multi-million-dollar outcomes for their clients. But the problem is that you get so close to your own marketing, like you were saying, that you're not seeing the blind spots. And even if you are, I mean, is it really that, like, can you actually solve them when you're looking at it the same way you've been looking at it for the past 10 years?
Yeah, no,
It's just,
oh,
yeah. So, and it is different. It's not just about marketing. It's the whole big picture of how do you actually scale the company? How do you be able to and to be able to scale a service company, it requires looking at it from operations, sales, and marketing all together and how the whole company is positioned. And the most scale strategies, and I'm going to put that in quotes, scale strategies are not actual scale strategies. What they are is they are operating systems that might show you how to manage agreements, how to manage the core values. They'll tell you, that'll show it'll be a place to manage your plan. And but it's not the actual strategy. And it doesn't actually take a look at the impact between operations, sales, and marketing. And unless you look at that, and unless you can actually extrapolate that to your team as well, your company will not be able to scale. It will not be able to scale profitably. And you really need to have that foundation in place for it to all work.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I mean, and things are changing so fast that I think that this model of being the highly paid consulting versus the big machine, originally when I started, I want to be the big machine. And I think that that's going by the wayside really, really fast as far as, I see some consolidation in companies like this that are technically very different, but need to provide that offer is the model that has to be there, unless you are this person who has this scaling genius of very low ticket offers, which I think is less people than we think.
Right. Yeah. The low ticket offers scaling. And here's the thing is that like low ticket, high ticket, you mentioned something about this before. And I think there's a real misconception around this because there are some industries that high ticket would be considered like $30,000 to $50,000 for your engagement. That would be considered quite low ticket for the consulting world that we're in. That's like chump change. So I would encourage people listening to actually recalibrate your thinking about what is expensive. And how you do that is to move into markets where what you're doing is a bargain, basically, because you're delivering such a great result. I mean, you could charge 3 times as much and it's still a bargain because of how much value you can produce and that under those circumstances for those right type of clients.
I love that. Taking lots of notes here. I think that it's an important mindset shift because people do get stuck in the wrong market. And it gives you bad market feedback. I see this all the time because they're like, their market's telling them they're too expensive. And so they're trying to figure out ways to systematize getting lower and lower. I've done it myself, right?
Right.
Systematize it into lower pricing or adding services instead of going, hey, I'm really good at this. Let me find someone where I can make an impact that's worth $1 million, like you said, or more.
Right.
And that's crucial. So, talk to me a little bit about the book. What's in it? What part of it's in it? And you've got a smaller version of the book for free too, correct?
Right. Yeah. So the book title again is The Hands-Off CEO, Triple Your Fees and Profitably Scale an Exceptional Consulting Agency That Grows Without You. And what it covers is this topic, everything that we've talked about. It talks about also how to be able to, like, what are the parts, how do you actually exit yourself out of the day-to-day in your business? And there's a consulting agency scalability checklist that shows you how to safely exit yourself from the leadership in each areas of these, and then how to be able to do so safely. The book goes into all the details on that, and really how to sustainably add millions of dollars of growth to your service company. This is based on, well, we're in our 11th year of business, plus that the service company that I owned before this, we've walked, really over 100 companies through through at least parts of this process. And we've had dozens that have gone through this whole process. This is a proven process. It works. It works for every consulting agency that actually that's willing to stand by their results, and they have really great results. And I would also say, if there's a consulting agency that doesn't have really great results, it's still a great thing to buy and use that to inspire yourself to get really good results. But you mentioned that we have an executive book summary. And I'll tell you, I was telling you just before we switched recording that, like, I wrote the book and then I wrote the book summary. And then, like, I was just like, damn, that's good. The book summary is every bit as good as the book. It's just shorter. And it doesn't go into as much detail in certain places, but the feedback that we've gotten on it has been really good. And it shows you how to 100% trust your team to generate better results without you, how to triple your fees. So we actually share that in the book summary as well. And we also share that consulting agency scalability checklist. It's all on one page. You can print it up. It's the exact checklist that we just gave to our clients who all flew in here to Southern Utah for our retreat. So it's really valuable.
Love it. I love it. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And of course, put a link to Hands-Off CEO, a link to the book. I would go out there and get it. I mean, who doesn't want to triple their fees in your consulting agency? There's so many most of you listening to this are in some sort of consulting service. And even if you don't hire Mandi, you're going to get a lot of value out of this, but unstuck some part of it. Unstick some part of it. I don't know how to say it.
We get it.
But we get it. But this has been awesome, Mandi. We'll put a link to all that in the show notes. Where are you spending most of your time on social media today? Is it LinkedIn?
LinkedIn. All right. Yep.
So we'll put a link to Mandi's. And actually, do you talk about your LinkedIn marketing strategy in the book?
Do I talk about a LinkedIn marketing strategy? No. We don't talk about that in the book. There's plenty of other things to talk about in the book. And I'm sure that there are other books that talk more extensively and are better LinkedIn marketing strategists than we are. I can't say that that's not our main area of expertise. No. So
I was just curious. Yeah. I mean, I know we've done a few videos on it. She has a lot of great material. So we'll put a link to all that in the show notes. Well, Mandi, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Ian. It was such a pleasure.
It's always fun to talk. I mean, this has been a super valuable show. Make sure to reach out to Mandi if you saw her on here and you thought it was valuable. Put it in the comments below. That stuff helps us keep going, helps us deliver more value to you. Ask her some questions, and if obviously reach out to her. And thank you all for taking Mandi and I on your journey. This has been Ian Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.